I will randomly choose from your list and go with her husband's twin. Here is your complete 1129-word, single-block, first-person romance drama. Ready for an immersive voiceover experience. I always knew they looked alike, those same storm gray eyes, that enigmatic smile that could disarm an argument in seconds. But I never expected to feel my pulse race when I saw Evan again, my husband's estranged twin. The first time I laid eyes on him after all those years, it was a rainy Thursday, the kind where the air smelled like wet pavement and the sky pressed low on your shoulders. I was standing in our kitchen, half listening to the rain on the window, when the back door opened and there he was, shaking water from his hair, dripping into the silence like a ghost stepping into my life. My marriage had been steady, reliable. At least that is what I told myself. I was 36, settled in a charming suburban home filled with the hum of my husband's work calls and the whisper of routines we rarely questioned. I had built my life on loyalty, on keeping promises, on believing in the bonds that were supposed to outlast temptation. Dinner parties, polite laughter with neighbors, a soft blanket over my lap while I read late into the night, these were my comforts. But comfort, I would learn, has a way of disguising its cracks. It began 2 weeks earlier, when I found a strange charge on our bank statement, a boutique hotel just outside the city. My husband brushed it off, said it was for a client meeting. His voice was smooth, but his eyes darted to the floor, and something in my chest tightened. The moment of truth came sooner than I wanted. A voicemail he did not mean for me to hear. Her laughter in the background, his softened tone. That night, the walls of our bedroom felt too close. The air too warm, my body too heavy. I curled on my side, listening to the faint rumble of his breathing, and wondered when we had last touched each other with genuine longing. I told no one, not yet. In the days that followed, I moved through the house like a shadow. The clock ticked loudly, my coffee tasted bitter, and even the light seemed harsher. Sometimes, in the quiet, I would hear the metallic clink of his wedding ring against his phone as he typed, and the sound filled my mouth with the taste of cold metal, like a penny held too long on the tongue. My footsteps echoed on the hardwood, hollow and measured, while inside I felt frantic, scanning for some anchor to hold me in place. And then came Evan, unexpected, unannounced, carrying only a duffel bag and an air of someone who had been walking for miles. He and my husband had not spoken in nearly a decade, the result of some old wound their family avoided discussing. His presence stirred something in me I had not expected. Curiosity, yes, but also warmth. He spoke softly, and yet every word seemed aimed directly at the part of me that had been starving for attention. Over the days that followed, I found myself drawn to the sound of him moving through the house. I noticed the way his laughter filled the rooms, in a way my husband's no longer did. One morning, I found him in the kitchen, pouring coffee, sleeves rolled up. His forearms kissed with the pale morning light. He caught me watching, and for a moment neither of us looked away. It was dangerous, that gaze, quiet but charged. If this confession has you holding your breath, wondering where this will lead, hit like and share, because you will not believe what happens next. The rain returned one evening, and with it came the soft patter that made the whole house seem to breathe differently. My husband was away on yet another meeting. I was on the porch, cradling a mug of chamomile tea, watching the rivulets race down the glass. Evan stepped outside, holding his own mug, steam curling up between us. He stood close enough that I could smell his cologne, something rich and clean, with a hint of cedar. My heart thudded. "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" he asked, his voice low, almost carried away by the rain. I nodded before I even thought about it. We talked until the tea cooled and the night pressed against our skin. He told me of the places he had been, the things he had left behind, the people who had left him. By the time the wind began to chill, I realized we were sitting close enough for my knee to brush his. That accidental touch made my breath catch, not because of the contact itself, but because of the way he looked at me afterward, as if that single point of warmth was the only truth between us. I told myself to be careful, to remember my vows, but the house felt different when he was near. His presence reminded me of what it felt like to be seen, not as a wife, not as a fixture in someone else's life, but as a woman. Days bled into nights. Our encounters remained within the lines of propriety, but skirted close to their edges. A shared umbrella in the rain, my hand brushing his when I passed him a plate, the lingering seconds before we said goodnight. Then, one early morning, just before sunrise, I found him in the living room, staring out the window. The world outside was draped in silver fog, the air thick with the scent of wet earth. He spoke without turning. "I know he has hurt you. I can see it in your eyes. And I would never." His voice faltered, and I felt the sharp ache of wanting words that could not be safely spoken. In that suspended moment, I realized what I was feeling was not merely infatuation. It was recognition of loneliness, of longing, of the quiet courage it takes to start again. But starting again with him would burn what little bridge remained between me and the life I had built. When my husband returned later that day, it was as though nothing had changed. Dinner at the table, his phone lighting up beside his plate, me smiling at the correct moments. And yet, under the surface, everything was different. I could feel Evan's presence in every room, even when he was not physically there. Eventually, he left as quietly as he had arrived, leaving me with a note tucked into the seam of the sofa. "When you are ready to begin again, I will come back." My fingers trembled as I read it, the paper warm from where it had been pressed into the cushions. I tucked it into my journal, unable to decide if it was a promise or a torment. Weeks have passed since then. My husband still travels, and I still hear that thin laugh through walls that are not my own. But now, in the quiet moments, I think of a man with storm-gray eyes who looked at me as though I was not invisible, who made the rain smell sweeter, who made the air feel electric. I do not know what the future holds. I only know that the taste of longing is not bitter anymore. It is ripe, waiting, like fruit just at the edge of falling. And perhaps one day, when the air smells of rain again, I will open the door and find him there, ready to begin. If you crave more raw, emotional confessions, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter awaits. Would you like me to also create a matching emotionally charged title and thumbnail text for this, so it's perfectly optimized for a romance drama YouTube upload? That would make it even more click-worthy